Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in to Town Meeting TV. My name is Emily Brewer. I do marketing and development here at CCTV. And this evening, I am joined by Winooski's two newest city councilors, Elsie Goodrich and Al Turkos. Thank you both so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You know, the whole point of this interview tonight is mostly so that Winooski residents can get to know you guys a little bit better. It was not the traditional way of running for city council that either of you joined. So I would love to dive into that shortly to learn a little bit more about that process. But first, I'd love for both of you to just do a quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe what brought you to Winooski. We'll start with Elsie.
Sure. So I've lived in Winooski for about 9 years with my partner. I love the city. I think I'm just really attracted to the diversity and the wonderful community that we have there.
Awesome. Great. Al?
I was born and raised in Vermont. I grew up in Underhill. I left and lived in New York City for a bit, and then like many people during the pandemic, I came back to Vermont, and I first was a renter in Winooski, and then I met my wife and I left, lived in Waterbury for a bit, and then she and I Waterbury felt a little bit remote for us, and we wanted to move back to the city. And so we recently just bought a house, and so I have been able to experience both the renter and the owner side of things in the city. And so, yeah, I've been in Winooski for about 2 years-ish, and it's been amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. And so, as I understand it, when Mayor Christine Lott stepped down from her position, Deputy Mayor Thomas Renner, who was on the city council, became mayor. I don't know, is it considered interim mayor?
Interim
mayor,
yes.
okay. And so, Elsie, you replaced Thomas's seat on the council, and then former city councilor Charles Judge stepped down, and Al, you were appointed to replace Charles
Correct.
on the council. Would either of you like to just talk a little bit about what was that process like for you to become a part of the council in a situation like that?
I will share one anecdote just because it has been so fun to work with Elsie. And when when the interim mayor seat was open, Elsie and I were both a part of the first cohort. And during that first interview in front of city council, we were seated next to each other. And there was one moment, I don't know if you remember this, but during the interview process, I truly cannot remember the question. Elsie might be able to. And I was just blown away by Elsie's knowledge, experience, skills, just who she is as a person, that I turned to her and I was like, I love you. And you can go back and you can find it in, the city council, because everything is recorded. And I went home that night and I literally said to both my closest friends and to my wife, I was like, I really hope that Elsie gets this. She is meant to be on city council. And it wasn't that I didn't want the position, obviously, but she was just meant for it. And she became city council, she became a councilor. I'm so grateful. And then it just by circumstance or what have you, that then I got an email a few days later that said that Councilor Judge was stepping down. And I was like, oh, this is selfishly really great because then I get to be on city council, work with Elsie, work with the other council members. And so, yeah, it just happened in a really, I want to say beautiful way that just really organically, I think, allowed both of us who were very excited to be a part of local government. And yeah.
Very serendipitous.
Yes, sure. That's a perfect word. Yes, very serendipitous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm also very excited to work with Al. I think it's wonderful too that we have the benefit of onboarding at the same time, that it is an unprecedented time,
Sure.
and neither of us have to sort of figure this out alone. So it does sort of feel like perhaps what a traditional onboarding would feel like, which is a great experience.
Yeah.
Cool. So was it an interview, an application and interview process? And did you so you had to interview with the current city council? Is that how it worked?
Yep. Yeah, so we had a few Zoom interviews before with some of the applicants, and they narrowed it down to a smaller pool. Okay. And then for the second round, I actually participated in the interviews. But it was a great way to get to know a lot of people too, who also applied, and there were wonderful candidates who were really interested, which is great.
Amazing.
And they posted it on Front Porch Forum, at least that's how I first saw it. And again, shout out to my wife, who was the one who sort of like nudged me. I don't know if I would have done it without having people in my life who really had said, like, you would be a good fit for this.
Sure.
And so it was a post on Front Porch Forum, which I think is also something I know I personally really rely on as a member of the community. And I know in Winooski in particular, it's very actively used. And it's a beautiful thread to see our community and neighbors come together. And so that was where I first saw it. I don't know how you saw it.
I think through the social media webpage for the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. And that's a really good kind of transition in the question of like particular moment or issue or experience that really motivated you to want to join the council?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think I'm really motivated by the affordable housing crisis that we're having in Vermont and the affordable crisis in general. Just so much needs to be done, and there's so much need in our city specifically, and we have such a wonderful diverse population that the need is so much greater and so much different than you might find in a more rural town. And I'm really inspired to be a part of that and do what I can to try and help provide as much as we can.
That's wonderful.
I had done an extensive amount of work in my past. I come from a very social justice activist advocate past in history, which I'm still very much involved in. But the majority of my work was on both a national and federal level or on a state level, particularly when I was living in New York City. And I worked, excuse me, I worked pretty closely on some particular bills or work with the New York City Council, which is very large. And when I moved back home to Vermont, I wanted to get involved on a more local level, but that was more in just like getting to know my neighbors, right? I was really invested in the reproductive freedom amendment that was embedded reproductive freedom into our Constitution. And then when I saw this, I knew that I wanted to be involved on like a deeply local level. And I know, as Elsie said, you know, given what's happening on a national level currently in our country, I loved the idea of investing in our community. And we'll talk about this in a bit, but I love Winooski, particularly as someone who was born and raised in this state. We believe so deeply in community and neighbors and village, and Winooski like is the heart of that. And so I love the idea of like walking down my street, seeing my neighbors, and knowing that what we discuss at City Council and the decisions that we make not only impact my own family, but also impact the neighbors or the people, you know, that are my neighbors.
Absolutely. And so this next question kind of rolls into what we've already been talking about. But, you know, are there any other personal or professional experiences that you feel prepared you for this role? You know, for example, Elsie, I understand you've been on the Development Review Board. And so if either of you want to talk a little bit more about that, and Al, you just answered partially that as well.
Yeah, I can start. In my past, so the majority of the work that I focused on in the past has really supported people accessing abortion care. And so I have a plethora of experience there. And then I do a lot of work in sexual assault advocacy as well. And so when it comes to the sort of like politics, elected sort of official space, I worked on a very extensive bill called the Adult Survivors Act in the state of New York, which opened up what we called a look-back window, which allowed sexual assault survivors to file a lawsuit or opened up the courts for them to file a suit either against their abuser or the institution that either covered up or facilitated in that harm. And so I worked with both members of the Assembly and the State Senate and was a real champion and advocate for that bill. And that took us about 3.5 years to get that bill passed. And so I have extensive experience being inside of, you know, that like political system of like lobbying for bills and all of those things. And then, you know, I think it's just the idea of like advocating for community, right? I'm a multiple sexual assault survivor myself. And it's the idea that like we have all experienced hardship, right? I talk so often about like not wanting to play the trauma Olympics, but like every single day, you know, you will pass someone on the street, you will not know what battle they are fighting, right? It could be like, it was really hard to get their kid out the door to go to childcare. They might be feeling ill, but they still have to go to work because they have to pay their bills. And so I think, you know, in the same way that oftentimes when we talk about, you know, people seeking abortion care, to get someone to the doctor to seek health care, like there are so many barriers that have to go into that. And so, yeah, I think for me, wanting to be on city council meant that, again, like in our like town and city of Winooski, there are so many people who are just living their everyday lives, and how can we attempt to make their lives easier, right? And knowing that, as we talk about often, we're heading into budget season, like what can we do as members of city council to show up in our capacity as councilors, and then also in our capacity as just people who are in the community. And so those are things from my past, yeah. What about you?
So I had served on the Winooski DRB for 6 years, so I've like kind of seen how the government there works, and you know, it's a great group of people to work with, and I really care about the city, so this seemed like a very natural step. Yeah. Before that, I was the youth service coordinator for the Winooski Children's Library, so I had a lot of experience with families in Winooski and really seeing how they work. And I work in legal now for the past 8 years, primarily around affordable housing. So it's kind of a perfect culmination of an opportunity to bring like years of experience in Winooski, years of experience with development and in legal to try and make Winooski the best it can be.
Wonderful. Thank you both. And yeah, I mean, so you both said it, but like Winooski like is an incredible community, very tight knit, super diverse, just like kind of like the epitome of community. So we'll just take a moment here to talk about like
I'm so sorry.
You're totally fine. That's what we have the water for. What does community mean to you both personally?
Great question. Yeah. Sorry, I love this question.
Go for it.
Okay. I was just having this conversation today, and particularly with a young person, we were talking about chosen and found family. And I think Winooski is a great example of that, of our town as a whole, or a city as a whole, I believe is like the epitome of community in the way that, like, I remember saying this during my interview for city council, like I love the fact where I live, particularly in Winooski, I'm able to walk to the Circle, the Rotary downtown. And I love that everyone, like you're always greeted with like generosity and kindness and a smile. I'm at the post office on a pretty regular basis, and I love that like Anne and Bill, who work at the post office, are always like helping me problem solve, right? Like there was an increase in postage recently. I didn't know that. Anne is helping me with that. And all of our local business owners, you know, like Sam at Specs and Laura, who owns Misery Loves Company, and Logan, who work, right? It's just like the folks there that they are like wedded into the space and they want to get to know you and your family. And I also recently just started volunteering at the Winooski Food Shelf. And that has really been wonderful for multiple of reasons. One, I might be one of the youngest volunteers, and the intergenerational friendships that I am starting to build is really wonderful.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, I think for me, it's also the idea that I know Councilor Her does a lot of work in the Inclusion and Belonging Commission, and it's the idea that Winooski is, you know, an incredibly diverse community, and we do not shy away from that, right? In 2020, we passed our resolution for non-citizen voting, and I know that we are really a town, city, community, to use that word, who I think never turns our back from that. And again, we're like running towards it and saying like, we have folks here, we have immigrants, we have undocumented folks, like how can we like welcome you with open arms? How can we support you? What do we need? Whether it's language justice, like all of these things. And that is what I think makes our city so incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, I think that was beautifully put. You covered all of it. But yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's such a wonderful city with such a diverse population. I mean, like racially, but also just like how many college kids are there, how many young families are there. So it's really a wonderful opportunity in just a square mile to really help so many people and interact with so many people.
And that's a good point there. Like Winooski is quite small. And so I really think that totally adds to the feeling of community that is formed there. I do think, you know, Chittenden County in general is really a great place for that, but Winooski is especially special.
Yeah.
So one thing that you brought up was, Councilor Hurd is on the Inclusion and Belonging Commission. Are either of you already on one? Like, was that already decided? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Take it away.
Sure. So I have landed on the Housing Commission, which is wonderful.
Fitting.
Had one meeting already, but we've already taken on a new member. I think that's one of the great things about having the City Council position posted, is that there's been a flood of people who are interested in joining all of the other wonderful commissions. So it's a really great time to be joining and have everyone be excited to be there and getting involved in Winooski. But I'm looking forward to spending the next 6 months working on housing.
That's great. Thank you.
I am the City Council liaison to the Downtown Winooski Commission, which I'm really looking forward to being a part of, also because I just love to frequent Winooski restaurants and businesses. And so I'm really looking forward to working with those folks. And then I'm also sitting on the Safe, Healthy, and Connected People Commission, which our first meeting is, I believe, on the 17th. We're still sort of massaging that date and time, but if anyone wants to join us, you can watch for that date and time. So yeah, it's been really wonderful to take those on.
Amazing, awesome. And this next question, we've already touched upon it, as with all of these other ones. The conversation is flowing nicely. I love when that happens.
We're here for it,
Let's talk a little bit more about some priorities that really matter to you and that you'd like to focus on during your time on the council, and if you choose to run again as you continue to sit on the council.
Yeah, I'll go. I think for me, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is how do we ensure that people, and particularly families, are staying in Winooski? I'm sure Elsie is maybe sick of hearing me say this, but my wife recently started coaching the mini Metro League basketball of 7th and 8th grade girls. And so she's been spending time inside the school. And as a family, it's the two of us and our dog. But as we've been in Winooski, we've been talking a lot about how some folks might leave Burlington or want to come, sort of like what we did to the city, and they might have young kids, but then how do we ensure that they're staying inside of our school system, because the Winooski school system is extraordinary, and the way that we support students inside our school is extraordinary. And I just think it's so important that people know that, and if they have kids, that they're staying here. And so how can we support families? I think that there are intersections. Elsie will most certainly speak to this regarding affordable housing, so that's most certainly housing. And so for me, it's just the idea of ensuring that families are feeling supported. And then I think the other thing is just that we do have a large immigrant population, and so how do we ensure that all of the social services that are available to them are actually reaching them? How do we know that they exist? I was just at this food shelf earlier this week and was talking about that, right? So how do they know that the food shelf exists, what the schedule is? How do we ensure that we're reaching them in the languages that they speak, or are we going to their, communities, where they live, et cetera. And so that is something that's also really important to me. And yeah, I think it's just the idea coming from sort of a harm reduction model of meeting people where they're at. So my thing right now is I'm doing a lot of listening and learning and being a sponge, and just sort of building off of the foundation. But those are my big things.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think that's great. I think the being a sponge part is really important right now. We're coming in the middle. There's so much already going on, and
true.
So many wonderful people working on great things that, I definitely have my passions that I want to work on, specifically bringing 3 and 4 bedroom housing into Winooski. There are so many families that are living in close quarters, and that's just not the development that we're seeing naturally come into the city. So a way that we can incentivize that or improve it. But I think one of the best things that I've learned in the past month is how much else is going on and how many other people are working on some great things. So I think as we're getting going, I think we're going to add to those list of priorities, add to the things that we're caring about. Because I came in with housing and really wanting to support our senior center, but I'm learning a lot about municipal infrastructure.
That's such a great point. So that being said, are there any specific that you haven't mentioned yet, projects, programs, partnerships that you're excited about exploring in the next couple of months here?
Well, I know that the Main Street construction is big right now, and we're coming into an off-season on that, fortunately, but definitely coming up on the bridge replacement is huge. So doing everything we can to make sure that we're setting people up to have the proper communication and have everything that they need so that this massive and wonderful infrastructure project is going to have the least amount of impact on the people and the businesses there.
Yep.
So I think that's what I'm most excited to get started on.
Cool. Al?
I echo that, and the idea very similarly is like, how do we ensure that the communication, right, is getting to folks?
Yep.
And so some folks, right, I'm on Instagram, some folks might not be, right? So are we like flowering in certain neighborhoods, or am I just walking around to certain places being like, hi, what questions do you have? And so things like that. And yeah, and then I think particularly as we're sort of seeing this flux of community members and SNAP benefits, I think for me a big project right now is just ensuring that folks know the hours of the food shelf. If they are community members who might be needing to use the food shelf, knowing the hours, knowing when we're open, and then also for community members knowing if they have the ability to donate, knowing how to donate, knowing where to donate. Those are two things that are really feeling important to me right now.
Great. And I would love for you both to just expand a little bit more on how can your constituents reach you if they have any questions, concerns, want to learn more about something. What are the best ways to contact you?
Well, our information is on the City of Winooski website. Our council emails are right there. First initial, last name at winooskivt.gov. Or you can reach all of the council and Mayor Renner at council@winooskivt.gov. And that's the best way to get in touch with me right now.
Great.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm curious, just as like a little bit of a light question, what's something that you love about Winooski that brings you joy? I'm always looking for new places to visit, new events to go to. So I'm curious what you like about Winooski.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll let you start with joy.
Oh my God, sorry, my asthma's having a moment today. Oh, what a great question. Okay, one, I know I said it a lot, volunteering at the food shelf is bringing me a lot of joy right now. Two, I love the burger at Mule Bar. I think if you are a meat eater, they also have a vegetarian option, but if you are a meat eater, I specifically love it with the pickled jalapenos. They're amazing. I'm gonna give you a lot. I love trivia night at Four Quarters, and I am obsessed with Specs. Specs is, I think, the way that they scaled their service. They started as a coffee shop, and then they are currently doing cocktails on Friday night. They also have a lot of NA options. They have a DJ. Vibes are amazing. The teens in my life are going to kill me for saying that word. And then their opening is November 18th, and it's a Sunday, and they're like, it's an all-day thing on Sunday, so you can like come in at 10 a.m., you can come in at 10 p.m., and I just think I'm really excited for that. And those are all right now my favorite things.
Those are great. I'll add Don Worry to that.
Yes.
It's a newer restaurant. So good. And lovely people. And Standing Stone Wines is another wonderful one. I have not had the pleasure to be to Howl Beer yet, but that definitely looks like an exciting space. And it's just wonderful to see some great businesses on the circle.
Yeah. And Howl Beer is about to have their 1-year anniversary party.
Yeah.
See, I'm over here writing everything down because I am so excited about that. It's one of those things where it's like you can live in the area for a super long time and still like have no idea what's going on right down the street. And so I always take the chance to like ask folks when I can, like, what's going on in your neck of the woods? 'Cause I want to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's honestly one of the things I've sort of been thinking about, and shout out to my best friend Morgan, who just had this idea, she saw it in another city, was like coffee with a council member.
Yes.
And I sort of want to do like, I mean, ideally this would be great if I could do it, but like a walking tour of Winooski or like favorite places, right? So
How cool.
Right, and I think for folks, who even live in Winooski, right?
Yeah.
Like they might not have the time or whatever. And I'm like, cool, like let's like bring your kid and we'll walk, the Rotary, or we'll walk the River Walk or something like that.
100%.
Because I think it can be even fun and illuminating to see, the town of Winooski or the city of Winooski through someone else's eyes.
For sure.
And so Elsie can walk me through her neighborhood, I can walk her through mine, things like that.
I love that
Great
idea.
idea.
I can't wait to see that come to fruition. this is kind of like an open-ended question. Like, I mean, you've only been on the council for the last couple of meetings, so you may not know how you feel yet. But are you interested in running again when your terms are up on town meeting day?
I think it's been a great experience. There's so much to learn and so many people to meet, so many departments to figure out how they work and what they're working on, that it's been such a joy getting up to speed.
Sure.
I don't think I'm ready to say whether I would again or not, but I'm very excited to be here right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm making this face because for the decade plus that I've worked in politics, I have always seen, excuse me, other people get this question, and so I'm now just it's fascinating to be on this side of things, and I'm just never did I ever. Yeah, I echo Elsie's answer, and I think I remember during the interview being asked this, and I remember my answer at that point in time was that I think it's really important that City Council be representative of the residents of Winooski. And right now, outside of the mayor, our City Council is, to my knowledge, I'm not going to ask them for demographics, but is relatively white presenting. And we are, and I would love it if there would be, I don't think it's possible capacity-wise, but we also don't have anyone relatively young, right? When I went to MMU, the high school I went to in Jericho, we had a seat on the school board for a student.
Right.
And I'm wondering, right, is there a possibility for that on City Council? And so my answer at that point in time to City Council during my interview was, could I potentially recruit someone who is potentially younger, comes from a more racially or ethnically diverse background. City Council can also be a time commitment sometimes. And so my answer is, I would love for that to also happen. Also, I'm loving this, and I would most certainly consider it if the residents, constituents of Winooski wanted that. So yeah, that's my jumbled answer of
Wonderful. I appreciate it. It is one of those questions where it's okay, I can't tell you what I'm going to feel in 6 months.
Also that, yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I'd just love to know if there's anything else that you'd like the community to know about you that we haven't chatted about yet before we end the conversation.
I think the only thing for me is, one, I never saw myself doing this, and I think so often I am not an elected official, we were appointed, right? But people in positions of power, perceived positions, wow, that alliteration, positions of power, City Council most certainly is, but I don't want people to be afraid of us, and I don't want people to think that we're not approachable, that you can't ask us a question, that you can't come up to us and, or email us and simply just say I have a question about this thing, or, can you help me understand the process behind this decision that you made? And that, I think, is something that I just hope that the folks of Winooski know that they can come to us. And I feel confident speaking on behalf of all council, approach us, right? Send us an email. We have a council-wide email. No question is, there's no such thing as a dumb question, truly. Ask us why there isn't a sidewalk on this street. Ask us why the dog park is on this street. Ask us, anything. Because I think, I know that we as council members want people to feel informed. We want them to know that we are making informed decisions, and not on behalf of the residents of Winooski, but with them. You can come to any city council meeting. Our city council meetings are posted online. And so that is the thing that I think I would always just want folks of Winooski to know. We are here to work with you, not for you, not on your behalf. We are not a voice for you. We are, we're here with you. We work in community together.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think that's great. I'll also add that as we were appointed, and it was a very quick timeline for both of us. We didn't really get the opportunity to go out and canvass and talk to people about what matters to them, and to hear that feedback naturally. So if there are things that you wish that we knew, or that you wish that you could ask us or tell us, please do reach out. I think both of us are very committed to being involved and engaged members of council, and this is an interesting opportunity that we're both in. So if there's anything that you feel like you haven't heard, please do let us know.
That's a great point, and I love this energy, and I think that is what all city councils need, and I deeply appreciate both of you for joining us here tonight because, as you said, you didn't get a chance to campaign, and so it's important for residents to get to know who you are, what you believe in, and I look forward to seeing the work that you guys get accomplished in the next couple of months. So Councilor Goodrich and Councilor Turkos, thank you both so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you all for watching and tuning in to Town Meeting TV. If you want more local content, please check out our YouTube, youtube.com/townmeetingtv, and have a wonderful night.